I remember the sound more than the pain. It wasn't loud. Just a clean, sharp crack that cut through polite wedding laughter and the clinking of glasses. Conversations thinned into silence the way air disappears before a storm. I had been standing near the dessert table, smoothing the fabric of my dress, trying to steady my breathing. I've never liked large crowds. I prefer observing, measuring rooms before speaking in them. His family, wealthy, very aware of status, filled the reception hall like they owned oxygen. His mother approached me with the tight smile of someone accustomed to obedience. You people need to learn to pay attention. She snapped when I didn't move quickly enough out of her path. I thought she meant someone behind me. I stepped aside anyway. Then she saw the tray I was holding, my own wedding favors, ones I had insisted on arranging myself. Her expression shifted into irritation. Stupid girl, she muttered loud enough for those nearby to hear. If you're going to work here, at least do it properly. Before I could process the accusation, her palm met my cheek. The tray tilted but didn't fall. I caught it. The room caught its breath. For a second, I felt myself splitting, one version of me shrinking inward, trained by years of subtle dismissal, the other standing very still, aware that disappearing was no longer an option. She hadn't recognized me. Not in my bridal dress, not in the makeup her own stylist had approved, not as the woman her son had chosen. And what hurt wasn't the mistake, it was how easily contempt came to her. Someone whispered, "That's the bride." The words moved through the crowd like a slow electrical current. My husband, turned at the sudden quiet. His expression shifted from confusion to something harder when he saw my face. "What happened?" he asked. His mother answered before I could. "She was being careless," she said briskly. "Honestly, the standards here," I interrupted her gently. "I'm not staff," I said. My voice surprised me. It didn't shake. "I'm your son's wife." The silence that followed felt heavier than the slap. Her eyes scanned my face as if searching for a joke. Then denial hardened her features. "Don't be ridiculous," she said. "My son wouldn't." "I did," he said quietly. He stepped beside me, not in front. That detail mattered. "You just hit my wife." The room shifted around us. People pretended not to watch while watching everything. Phones lowered, but not entirely. She laughed once, short, disbelieving. If she had introduced herself properly, instead of hovering like hired help, the words confirmed what I had sensed since the engagement. I was acceptable in private, questionable in public. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't create a scene. He simply said, "You need to leave." That startled her more than anger would have. "This is my son's wedding." "It's ours," he replied. She stepped closer to me then, not to apologize, but to study me, as if I were an object that had been misdelivered. I didn't step back. "You've embarrassed yourself," I told her quietly, not cruelly, just plainly. Something in that steadiness seemed to provoke her more than accusation would have. She reached as if to grab my arm. A venue coordinator moved between us instantly. "Mom, I'm going to have to ask you to step outside." She resisted. Pride is loud when cornered. Her voice rose. She accused, deflected, blamed the lighting, blamed confusion, blamed me. When she shoved the coordinator's shoulder to pass, that was the moment control left the family entirely. Security was called. Then police. The arrival was procedural. 2 officers entering in calm uniform, the quiet murmur of authority that cannot be argued with socially. Guests parted in instinctive respect. This was no longer a family disagreement. It was an incident. They listened. They looked at the faint red mark still warming my cheek. One officer asked if I wanted to press charges for assault. The word hung in the air. I looked at her. For the first time, she looked uncertain. I shook my head. "No, I don't." It wasn't mercy. It was clarity. A public report, a formal warning, removal from the property. That was enough. Enough for the guests to understand. Enough for her to feel the consequence without turning the wedding into a courtroom. She was escorted out. No dramatic breakdown. No shouting. Just a door closing on a reputation that had cracked under its own prejudice. The reception resumed, but softer. Conversations were careful now. Some people avoided my eyes. Others met them with a new kind of respect. Later, when the hall emptied and only the low hum of cleanup remained, he found me sitting alone near the stage. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what?" I asked. "For not seeing it sooner, for thinking it would be different today." I studied him. This was the real beginning, not the vows, not the music, the boundary. "You can't choose your mother," I said, "but you can choose how close she stands to our life." He nodded. It wasn't dramatic, it was understanding. That night, I looked at my reflection again. The redness on my cheek had faded to something barely visible. What remained wasn't humiliation. It was proof. She had shown everyone exactly who she was. And I hadn't needed to become someone else to withstand it.